Thanks for downloading Tech Tent from the BBC World Service. Find out more about us at bbcworldservice.com/techtent. Hello and welcome to Tech Tent, your weekly guide to all the hottest news from the technology business. I'm Rory Cellan-Jones, and this week a special report from the German capital Berlin, which staged the first major tech event, albeit on a small scale, since the global pandemic began. And tech startups are returning to their offices, so what can we learn from them about a return to normality? We're getting sadly accustomed to horrific events being streamed on social media. One mother tells us how her daughter was traumatized by a video and calls for faster action from the companies. And Art as a Game, the app that lets you build your own art gallery. Joining me to chew over all of those stories and more is BBC technology reporter Jane Wakefield. Jane, what have you been up to this week?
So it's been another busy week in tech. Some interesting stories and an interesting investigation, but that doesn't come out till tomorrow, so we're not going to talk about that, but maybe next week.
You are so tantalising there. I can't wait to hear more about that. Here's the flavour of what's coming up this week.
Before you're going to post something because it makes you look like you're aware of what's going on, you're cool. Well,
I could visit your gallery, Rory, and be inspired by something on the wall, in which case I just click on it and acquire a copy for myself.
All of that soon. Now, if one major country in Europe has done particularly well in the battle against COVID-19, it's Germany. This country of 80 million people has seen around 250,000 cases and 9,500 deaths. But that's about a quarter as many fatalities as in the UK. What that has meant is that working life, particularly in the tech sector, has been able to get back to something approaching normality. And there's even been a real live tech show. I'm just back from spending 5 days in the German capital, Berlin. Well, I've just got off the S-Bahn at the Messegelände, the vast fairgrounds in western Berlin. Normally, this area would be teeming with people, thousands of people, at one of the greatest tech shows on earth, IFA, which happens in early September. But it's deserted. I'm here virtually alone because IFA did happen this year, amazingly, but only lasted 3 days on a very small scale. Let's find out from the man running the show how it went. Well, I'm with the man who's overseen the show, Jens Heitecker. How's it gone this year?
Indeed, I feel sad because I miss all the public, all the huge number of attendees coming together to exchange about innovation, to see newest innovation, to present the newest innovation. On the other side, we're very proud because we got organized a very small trade show with only 150 physical exhibitors and 1,400 virtual exhibitors, where we presented to the press, to trade visitors, the big announcements by the industry, startups and all the newest technology in a much smaller scale, but in a safe way in this time of corona restrictions.
What do you think we've learned about the future of such events? It's still incredibly uncertain, isn't it? What's going to happen over the next year?
We learned a lot. We learned, first of all, it was important to bring together physically people with our virtual attendance. We have seen many other shows who tried to do it only virtual, and the impact of the shows were much lower than ours. And we learned and we saw the joy in the eyes of our attendees when they've met first time here again. And that's what brings me to this big optimism for next year, that if we are allowed, and I really think it will be allowed by next summer, to bring IFA back in the old, big, huge global size and with much more innovation than we could present this year.
I've now come across Berlin to an eastern district, quite close to where the old wall used to stand, to a building, a rather beautiful building that used to be a camera factory, and it's now called Factory. It's a shared working space full of startups, tech startups, and believe it or not, it's humming with activity.
My name is Catherine Bischoff, and I'm the Chief Relationship Officer at Factory Berlin.
Catherine, I walk in here and it immediately doesn't feel like locked down doesn't feel like we're in the middle of a crisis, as it has done in a lot of other working spaces. What's happened here over the last 6 months?
Well, luckily, we didn't have to shut down completely and managed the size of our community and allowing them into the space in measured scale, obviously following the guidelines of the city and the Senate.
How important has it been for you to keep going, even at a low level? You're now expanding again, but just to give people some sort of sense that the startup scene hadn't actually gone into deep freeze.
Well, our whole mission is to build a strong community, and so community obviously can happen digitally, and people did continue to communicate through our digital channels, but essentially the space is important because so many serendipitous things happen here. And again, as you try to scale your company or pivot your company, it's quite important to be surrounded by other people that can help you.
Well, let's go on a little tour and see what we can see. So we've come up into one of the shared working spaces. This is occupied by one business. It's a beautiful room overlooking trees, and they've got lots of plants in the room. Quite a lot of people at work. Who are you and what is this place?
Hi, my name is Lubomila. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Plan-A. In Plan-A, we fight climate change with data.
And you were all what impresses me is that I come from a city where very few people are at work in an office. Why have you decided you need to be together in an office?
Once the restrictions fell in Germany, we felt quite comfortable going back to the office because it really increases productivity and it helps us collaborate better. And it also is a way for us to kind of engage after having had 4 months of working from home.
So I'm up in one of the startup labs now, and I've come across a group of youngish people around a table. Who are you? What do you do?
My name is Matthew Klimke. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Viking, an augmented reality try-on solution for footwear brands, and we allow their end consumers to virtually try on footwear through the smartphone camera.
And why are you here? Everywhere else that I've been in London, for instance, is kind of closed.
I don't know, we like working together. We want to see our team.
I've spent months just seeing my colleagues on Zoom, and it's beginning to drive me up the wall. Is there something to that? Are you enjoying just being face to face with your colleagues?
With colleagues, yes, but the good thing is that with investors and customers, that you don't have to. Everything's over Zoom now, so that actually makes it a lot better for us and cheaper. So, I mean, disadvantages and advantages. It's best of both worlds.
Your colleague's smirking over there. I think he's happy to be here.
I think he's happy too, yeah. He's just laughing at me.
That was Matthew Klimke, CEO and co-founder of Viking, speaking to me in Berlin. Jane, you and I have been working remotely for months. It was a huge pleasure for me to get out and actually meet some people face to face. Are you jealous?
I am extremely jealous that you managed to escape your loft. And also, I could hear the wonder in your voice as you wandered around going, people, offices, what's this?
I know.
So I really felt that I was there with you. And it did feel like it was very strange that people are going back to their offices. It doesn't seem quite that way in the UK.
There's been a bit of a backlash this week, hasn't there, against this idea that we're all going to work from home forevermore from one particular tech leader.
Yeah, so Netflix boss Reed Hastings has made the case for people coming back into the office, which is quite ironic given that actually one of the things that keeps us at home is watching lots of Netflix. Not that we're doing that during our working day, obviously.
No.
But the point was also made in your piece, wasn't it, about startups feeling that they kind of need that bouncing of ideas off each other. And that sort of only really happens in a sort of space where you're meeting in person. So you see the beanbags at Google. I mean, the Google office in Zurich, which I visited many years ago, had a slide, it had free food, it had massage chairs. And of course now, ironically, those beanbags will be empty and the slide won't have anybody on. Exactly. It's sad, but also we do have to sort of try and start striking a balance where people find ways that they can collaborate and feel socially as well as, in a work way together while still being safe.
Yes, we're all working our way towards probably a middle way. Some at home, some in the office. Now let's have a look at a few of the week's other big tech stories with Jane. The Chinese tech giant Huawei has been under huge pressure as the US tries to shut down its supply chains, banning American companies from working with it. But it's now talking of its own operating system to rival Android and Apple's iOS. What's that about?
Yeah, so it started working on Harmony, as it's called, last year. But that work has obviously become more urgent in light of the US ban on sales to the Chinese tech giant, which means that Google could not license its apps, which effectively meant that Android was not exactly optimal on its phones. So Chinese media reports suggest that it has ploughed hundreds of millions into developing Harmony. And some suggest that it could have between 70 and 80% of the performance features of Android, and it will be installed on all of Huawei's smartphones next year. It is also going to be compatible with smart speakers, wearables, in-car systems. But the big question is whether other Chinese handset makers will jump on board, and that will determine whether its influence reaches beyond China or not.
Well, yeah, and the other question is whether the big app makers, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, etc., want to make apps for what the American government is trying to call a pariah company. So that'll be a big test. And if Tesla sees itself as the car company of the future, GM is one of the automotive giants of the past. But this week has seen it trying to catch up, hasn't it?
Yeah, so the electric revolution isn't just about cars, and General Motors has announced that it is going to start providing its first electric pickup trucks in the next few years. And crucially, unlike Tesla's battery-only powered vehicles, the Badger, as it will be known, from General Motors, will have combined hydrogen gas with oxygen. So that will mean it will also need a network of charging stations that are different to the electric ones. And it's working on this in partnership with a startup called Nikola, which is one of just a handful of firms developing hydrogen-powered lorries.
Yeah, a long way to go before we know who's won the battle of the new car giants. You're listening to Tech Tent from the BBC World Service with Rory Catalan-Jones. Coming up, the game that lets you become an art gallery curator. Now, a horrific video showing someone taking their own life is proving difficult to erase from social media. The video did not originate on TikTok, but it's this platform with a huge teenage audience which appears to be having the most difficulty in taking it down. Jane, you've been following this story.
Yeah, so we do see these horrific videos pop up on social media from time to time. What's making it particularly difficult for TikTok is the algorithms serve up videos from people you might not follow. So you could be flicking through your For You page and see a whole variety of things. And that's exactly what happened to one 14-year-old girl who lives just outside Edinburgh. And I spoke to her mum, Brenda.
My daughter came downstairs and she was distressed like I'd never seen before. She told me she was going to be sick. She started sobbing, hyperventilating. She was shaking. Eventually, she told me what happened, and I simply could not believe what she was telling me. Basically, she was scrolling on her For You page on TikTok, and this video appeared. I don't even want to describe it. She described it to me, and I didn't watch it. I didn't see the video, and I had my head in my hands, and I started shouting, and she was saying, "Why are you angry at me?" I was saying, I'm not angry at you. I'm speechless. I just can't understand how such a thing got onto the internet. But my 14-year-old just witnessed a suicide. I mean, surely a line has been crossed.
It's very distressing, the details of that. And just explain to me what you did, what action you took.
Well, to be honest, I really didn't know what to do. My instinct was to run to the top of the world, scream and shout and tell the whole world to stop this. I called a friend of mine. I wanted to warn them that this is happening. Please spread the word. I decided to phone the police. My son was saying, well, they're not going to do anything. Indeed, they told me that they're not there to police the internet. I don't want to be accused of overreacting, but at the same time, would you like your child to witness a suicide? It's the graphic nature of it all, especially the manner, the delivery of it, slotted in on the For You page. Some people, I can't confirm that, but apparently the video's also been disguised, and it's been introduced with kittens and dogs. So I would like to urge anyone to think twice about trying to share this video or all the memes that have been done about it before you're going to post something, because it makes you look like you're aware of what's going on, you're cool. Well, think about what it can do to whoever may be seeing that. The recipients of this could have real lasting consequences. I just wish people would take more social responsibility for their postings on social media, because frankly, you just don't know where it's going to end up. And this has traveled like wildfire all around the world.
That's Brenda talking about her daughter's experience. And it has to be said that video first appeared on Facebook, which managed to take it down. Jane, what has TikTok said about its efforts?
So it's saying that it's using its software to detect and flag the clips, and that obviously anything that glorifies, praises, or promotes suicide is against its policy. And it's also actually thanked members of its community who have put up their own warnings so that others who might be stumbling upon it click away from it.
Yeah, but a continuing issue for all the social media platforms. How to act quickly enough, because this stuff spreads really very fast. Now, the last few months have been extremely hard for museums and art galleries, which have been closed for long periods, and very good for the games industry, with millions of people looking for entertainment during a lockdown. But an entrepreneur called Yarden Yaroshevsky had an idea. Why not create a game which involves having your own art gallery? He's called it Occupy White Walls, and it's already becoming a platform for artists to promote their work, as well as an enjoyable experience for art lovers. Mr. Yaroshevsky told me where the idea came from.
Well, it started with a problem. A few years ago, I wanted to do a games company because I was always a gamer and I'm very excited about this, growing medium, etc. And I was looking for interesting ideas, and I came across the fact that there were no games about art at all, which seemed a bit strange because there's games about everything. And the more we dug up into this, we started realizing that art is almost like a political question. Political in the sense of who gets to see what and who decides and all those things. It also required this futuristic AI that would learn each gamer's or each player's taste so we don't bore them. And so it started a very kind of eventful journey that got us to where we're here. We're not even close to finishing, of course.
So if somebody signs up to Occupy White Walls, what sort of experience will they have?
They would start by designing a gallery, by building a space. There's a lot of, it's really a game about architecture in a way. The walls are more important than they seem. So they would design their space, they would visit other people's creations, they would get a lot of inspiration. People are incredibly creative with this tool set. And along the way, they will start coming across artworks. It could be through the AI, it could be, I could visit your gallery, Rory, and be inspired by something on the wall, in which case I just click on it and acquire a copy for myself. And the more art you acquire, the more it kind of becomes a loop, because you start putting on walls and it kind of makes you reconsider things and add stuff. People are creative, and if you give them a runway, they just run with it.
And what kind of behavior are you seeing around art?
That's very interesting. First of all, a lot of the current players are gamers. So a lot of people come with gaming, and a lot of the reviews say something like, I'm not an artsy person, but I just discovered Egon Schiele, etc. As far as gaming culture is concerned, I'm sure you're aware about, the issues with trolls, and it could be a bit toxic. I have to say the community here is mind-blowing. I don't know if it's because there's no conflict or just the art, people are civilized, But the behavior, people are super friendly, helpful. There's almost no trolls. We have a whole team of moderators, volunteer moderators, who ban one person in 6 months. I hope we're not going to get a lot of trolls now. So the point though is that if we take those kind of so-called toxic audiences, especially also for women or other LGBT people, and we put them in this kind of nicer, more civilized environment, then the behavior also changes. Surprise, surprise.
And the $64,000 question: what's the business model here? This is not a charity project. You presumably want to build a business here.
Yes, we want to build a sustainable, growing platform that would stay for a long term. To be honest, we're kind of still exploring it. Our general idea is what's called free to play. So the game is free, a bit like Fortnite, but if you wanted special skins or special items for your character, etc., that would cost some real money.
And in the longer term, you're building what you hope is a kind of vibrant community of younger art lovers, because there's a problem with galleries, isn't there? The galleries are popular, but with quite an older audience.
Yes, I think that's exactly true. We want to build the biggest art collection in history, and also the smartest. So, each of us get their own individual version, which is hopefully always kind of exciting and interesting. By the way, I think the reason why young people kind of are less engaged with traditional art galleries is actually goes back to Marshall McLuhan. If we want to go slightly off topic, the medium is the message. So younger people growing up with video games and internet and web and all this kind of abundance of media, they expect a certain agency. And if you go to a museum and they don't recognize you, there's nothing you can do if you really like. You can take a selfie. That's very frustrating. So if people have agency and they have their own domain, their own say, that's far more engaging. And as one of the players posted recently, when you're visiting the Tate, you're just visiting somebody else's museum.
Yarden Yaroshevsky, and that game, which is a lot of fun, I have to say, is called Occupy White Walls. Jane, you've been getting out to any real or virtual art galleries?
Do you know what? I have to say that I'm feeling very culturally bereft. I've been seeing some of your posts on social media about going to museums in Berlin and listening to that. It's just making me feel very jealous and very determined to try and do something about it. And of course, there's lots of, you don't even have to leave your house. There are lots of ways you can kind of do virtual tours of art galleries and museums. So I'm determined to do something very soon.
It is interesting how the virtual world and the real world are being mashed up a bit. But yeah, from my experience, actually it was the Stasi Museum in Berlin, which was the highlight of my visit. Absolutely fascinating place. And being there in the former headquarters of the Stasi was a very different experience from touring it virtually. That's all we've got time for this week. Thanks to my BBC colleague, Jane Wakefield. You can read all of our stories at bbc.com/technology, your essential destination for all your tech news. Don't forget this programme is available as a podcast. Let your friends know and join us again in the Tech Tent at the same time next week.